So good morning everyone, let's learn how to service a Mitsubishi Airtrek or Evo 7 GTA. Can also work for the Evo 9 GTA as well. Most of it's pretty much the same. There might be a few variances between the few. Alright, so what I've found so far is that you need a 24mm and a 17mm. Now this is going to do the drain plugs and the filler plugs for the engine, the transfer case and the gearbox. For the gearbox, today we're going to use Penner for all of our fluids. You need ATF and you're going to need nearly 8 litres of it. HPR 5 and some 80-90 mineral gear oil. Now I just got the car warming up at the moment. That'll help the fluids drain. First we're going to do the transfer case. I've already pretty much set up for that and we're going to learn how to do this together. So yeah. Okay, so we are under the car now. First we're doing the transfer case. You're going to need about 700 mils of that transfer case fluid I was telling you about, the gear oil, which I've got ready in my pump here. So there's a filler, so it's right next to your drive shaft, right there. As you can see, the socket's already on it. This is on the driver's side if you're in Australia or anywhere where it's right hand drive. So you want to crack that, and then you've got your drain port here. Cracking the top's going to help it all drain out the bottom. So let's see if we can get to it. Oh, she's a bit tight. I'll loosen that up and I'll get back to you. Alrighty, so whoever decided to put that bolt on made sure they did a really good job of it. But lucky I got a tool for that. You will need to use, if you get a big breaker bar like this, one of the multi-splines, only because you can't get the angle of a normal locked socket, which is a bit nicer when you got those tighter things to take off, because there's less play or less chance for it to skip. So once we do that, that is now cracked. Alright, we're going to do the big bottom one here. That's your 24mm. Alright, and then let it drain. Luckily for us, that one wasn't so tight. Alright, now that it's basically drained, what you want to do, you want to grab a rag, clean up around the sump bolt area. Alright, you want to keep it nice and clean for when you put the bolt back in. Alright, so the bolt's got the washer on it. Alright, it's been wiped down. Don't want to put any grit and stuff back in. Got it finger tight. Give it another clean up. And nip it up with your socket. Careful with this type of stuff, you don't want to screw up, otherwise you stuff your sump plug and then you're not going anywhere anytime soon. Next thing is you get your pump with your fluid. Hook it in and you're going to keep pumping it until it starts to drizzle out from that port. Now this stuff is fairly thick, so you will get a little arm work out. So see you in a minute. Once you see it drizzling out like that, that's how you know she's full. So what we're going to do is you take the hook out, oops, get your plug and seal it back up. Then you're ready to move on to the next step. Next we're going to do the engine, since we're basically right here, as you can see. That's the drain plug. So that video cut, I was basically just saying that's what the oil filter is. Next step, you want to come out, oil cap, filler cap off. This is going to help it drain thoroughly. We make sure we got our filter removal tool, our 17mm socket, and our oil filter. Why do multiple trips when you can do it once? So we go underneath, grab our 17mm, crack it, which I already did, because once again, video editing failure, remove the sump, plug, there we go, and make sure you're actually going to get it into the tub. That was a pretty close one. Let's let that drain. I'm going to try something new here. I've never actually done this before. There's no cups big enough to do the cup trick, so what I've done is I puncture a hole underneath. Got my drain pan, because that's still dribbling just a little bit. So I've punched a hole in the oil filter, and to make sure we're going to make as little mess as possible, pull it out, and look at that. Drain your oil filter into the pan. Works quite well because there's plenty of space to do it. And now when I take my oil filter off, I'm not going to squirt oil everywhere. Thought that was a pretty nifty trick. Now that everything is basically drained, we do what we did with the transfer case. Grab your rag, clean around everywhere, clean your sump plug, and put that sump plug back in. Still a little bit of drizzle, that's alright. Make sure you clean around there. And then nip it up with your socket, which I'm going to do in a sec. Now we're going to take this oil filter off. Already cracked it. Alright, oil filter is off. Now we're just going to give around the filter housing a deep wipe down as well. Make sure everything new goes on clean. I've pre-filled the oil filter and did a run of oil around it. Alright, so you're going to put this one back on. With oil filters, hand tight. Make sure it is tight, but don't go putting tools on it, rattling gun or anything stupid like that, otherwise you'll never get the thing off and you can damage it in the process. Alright, so that section is now complete. Let's get out of here. Alright, so now we've drained it, now it's time to fill it up. I'm not going to fill it up all the way because the car is in the air and it's somewhat not quite level. So what we'll do is we'll fill it up to about 3.8 litres, because this takes just over 4, between 4 and 4.5 litres. Alright, so we're going to fill it up most of the way but not all the way, and then once the car's down on the floor we'll check the levels again, make sure we're not overfilling it. Last thing you want is overfill it and then waste all that fresh oil we just put in. Okay, just to show you why we don't fill it up all the way, alright, or use the capacity they tell us. So I've just put about 3.8 in it, and as you can see, it's a bit hard to see, it's just under the full mark. So we will double check that once the car is on the ground, but it's always good to stop and check as you're filling up, because sometimes there are different variables as to how much oil you can put into it for whatever reason, or whatever difference is on your specific vehicle. Even though it's got the same engine, there might be differences still. Now for the really fun part. This one is a little bit more complicated because it's really hard to find stuff online, which is what enticed me to start making this video. We are going to fill it up from the dipstick, because I cannot find, even though some places say there is, some places say there isn't, I cannot find a filler port for this. So we are going to be using the dipstick. See, my car's not normal. I do have a water to air intercooler. Alright, so I did have to unbolt all of that so I can get to it. And don't worry, that isn't actually plumbed in, it's just there to fill the hole in the intake, so don't go making fun of it as to, oh, that's not plumbed in correctly, because it's not plumbed in at all. It's literally just a vacuum block and a block for the induction pipe down there. Alright, so let's get to it. Alright, we've got our drain pan underneath. Our drain plug is right there. Alright, so Australian vehicles, right hand drive again. Alright, so passenger side, it's basically where your wheel is, you come straight across and you got your drain plug there. Alright, so let's undo that one. Once again, I've already pre-cracked it. Make sure you don't lose that washer. There we go. Oh, now we're going to let that drain out. We've got our sump plunk off. As you can see, it is a little bit gunky with some filings. Now, don't be too concerned unless you had big chunks, as this is pretty common for automatic gearboxes, no matter what car they're in. If it was a bit more than that, then maybe a little cause for concern. But as you can see, it's really fine, and that's pretty common. Okay, so that's all drained. Made a big mess because it missed the bucket when I first started. Alright, we put the plug back in, make sure it's all wiped up around the gearbox and the plug. Alright, next thing we've got to do is flush it. Now these are slightly different to your normal flush. Alright, these have a cooler line running here. Alright, so there is a air cooler up behind the wheel well. Where are we? Right there. Alright, and it also runs into the radiator, just because they like to be extra difficult. Alright, so we've got this line here that runs from the cooler to the radiator. Alright, we're going to undo it from this join. It will be mounted to the back corner of your gearbox, but bolt's broken, typical JDM. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to let that drain out. Alright, we're going to fill it up with a few litres of the fluid, start it up, let it pump out. Alright, and then stop, fill it up a little bit more, let it pump out a little bit more. Alright, and that should help flush the system out. Once that's done, hose back on, fill it up with your, we'll say 7 litres to start off with. Alright, let it run. To check your fluid, you do need it running, but we'll go through that next. So I'm going to go ahead, drain this, give it a flush, put it back together, and then we'll start filling it up and see how we go. Before we get too carried away, what I did was, from the oil cooler side, because we don't know which way it's going to flow, or I don't know which way it's going to flow, it's the first time doing it. Cable tied my hose so it goes straight down into the pan, and same with this side. I just got an extra bit of hose that I had, so when it does come out, it squirts into the pan, and we're going to make as little mess as possible. So let's put a few litres in through the filler cap and give it a run, see how it goes. Hopefully fresh fluid starts coming out, and then put this hose back on where it goes, and hopefully we're all good. Now, to stop you from doing any rookie mistakes, don't forget this is a semi-sealed unit, so when you pour your fluid in, alright, it is want to gurgle so it can get some air in. So just slowly pour that fluid in. Right, so I've put just under the 4 litres mark in. Right. Now I'm going to set this up here, just because I am excited to see how this is going to turn out. This is what they say to do. How true it is, who knows? But from all the research I have done, this seems to be the way that it is done. So let's crank her up. see now that it's starting to pump some clean fluid through. Alright, since it's drizzling, we don't want to blow the gearbox up. So we're going to turn that off, let it drain a little bit more. Alright, then we'll put the hoses back together. I did put a fair bit of oil in, a bit more than what I was originally going to do. So you can see that's clean oil coming out now. Put those hoses back on, start filling her up. Like I said, about 7 litres, and once she's on the ground, same with the engine oil, get the car all warmed up. Then check all those fluids again. Gearbox oil you do want to test once it's warm, alright, and with the engine running, otherwise you're going to get a false reading. Alright, let's fill her up and see how she goes. See you in a minute. Okay, so we have topped all the fluids up, all the filters are on, sump plugs on, everything all cleaned up. Car is now serviced. Done a test drive, make sure that everything is running smoothly. Alright, rechecked the gearbox oil once you've taken it for a drive. That way the torque converter has filled up with fluid, everything's all filled up with fluid, and you get a correct reading. And don't forget to test it when it is hot, not cold on these ones. Alright, once again, thanks for watching, love your support. If you do want any tutorials for anything, let me know and I'll see what I can do. On some cars like this I am still learning, because it is a pretty niche market. It's half Evo, half Outlander, so parts are mixed and matched all over the place. But like with the gets, anything like that, I'm more than happy to help out. Thanks for watching.